Got our quarterly or Q1 update webcast here, joined by Matt Douglas and Justin Rice. How you guys doing?
Doing well. Thanks, Rob.
Matt?
Introduce Justin a little bit, because the folks don't know Justin.
Well, yeah, Justin, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey, everybody. My name is Justin Rice. I'm a vice president over here at CBTS. I have responsibility for our technical pre-sales organization in the U.S., as well as our product management groups and our AI and analytics practice.
Well, Justin, thanks for joining us. We have a couple topics that we're excited to bring up, but before we do that, remember that, like always, we have a giveaway.
A little bit of money.
Yeah, money.
Yes.
$1,000 to use for a customer or team event, and that's drawn by at the end of the webcast. And if you ask a question, you get entered. Your name gets entered 5 times. So it's a good idea to ask questions.
Can we enter?
Yeah.
No, you cannot.
Questions?
You can enter, but you're not going to win.
All right.
So as you can see, there's 3 things we're going to talk about, and we kind of prioritize those 3 things, and they're really making a big impact and moving the needle in our channel program for
Some
our
of our
partners.
biggest wins been right around these 3. Yep.
Yeah. So we'll start with the universal SIP Toolkit, then we'll go into Webex Contact Center and Palo. But this concept of a universal SIP toolkit it's kind of taking what was known as kind of vanilla SIP, and that's how it's kind of known in the industry, but there's so much more complexity and benefit and flavors behind it, really, with the connectivity that it provides. So
we've been delivering VoIP for 20 years, and we just built a brand new network and executed it middle of last year, right? And so, again, your point is kind of people think, it's SIP, it's voice. Why is that important?
Right.
Why does that make any difference to the customers and partners out there? And I think really the big thing here is about its ability to connect to so many different sources, whether it's partner, kind of vendor facing or PSTN facing, or whether it's customer facing, right? So you see on this diagram, we are connected to all sorts of different PSTN connectivity out there. All the 911, of course, the E911. One of the big things you see there is T38. Believe it or not, fax is still a problem out there, right? And so that fax connection, actually, we just got done putting up a SIP trunk to a hospital where we replaced 10 different PRIs. They were spending a lot of money with physical PRIs to deliver fax. And this T38 helped us to deliver these long faxes in a hospital environment. So our connectivity on the PSTN side, right? That's important. But then customer facing over here, the fact that we can connect into Webex Calling, Webex Contact Center, Webex Connect, their CPaaS platform. We're going to talk a little bit about that later. The fact that we connect to Microsoft Teams, and then all of the other partners. We connect to Five9. We've got a number of customers that we use our Five9 connection out there. Our own contact center product, CX Sync, and then our connections to Genesys as well and Twilio. So talk a little bit from your perspective on the product management side, what's how we benefited internally to make new solutions.
What's been really interesting about this kind of universal SIP toolkit that I don't know, I'd like to say we did it strategically, but we kind of accidentally stepped into it. And it's very interesting because we sit in front of customers, and this helps us influence our product decisions, but we sit in front of customers and we hear them say, I want best of breed for my touch points with my customer, whether that is Webex Calling, Five9, Twilio, AWS, regardless of that platform, they want to have best in breed technology to their customers, right? For those customer interactions. Now, when you do so, a lot of times we get into these customer engagements and they say, I'm going to buy calling plans for AWS Connect or Webex Calling or Microsoft Teams separately. And we sit down and we kind of consult with them, and we get to the answer we always end up to is, well, why don't you leverage our SIP core first? Bring your numbers over to our SIP core and let us then route the calls accordingly to which platform,
whatever platform you're
strategically using. Now,
whether they buy it from us or not.
We can route those calls accordingly. And the great part about that is we had a big hospital system that literally went down, had one of the top tech companies had a big outage.
The Teams had an outage, and people probably know about it.
Microsoft Teams had an outage a few days ago. big outage. Customers were down for 4, 8, 9 hours. With this platform that we built, we were able to say, okay, let me take those calls back. Let me deliver them to a second platform temporarily to make sure you, hospital, are not impacted. So it's been really interesting to see the adoption of the SIP Toolkit, and it's truly influencing how we develop the product.
That particular situation, that customer would have been down somewhere in the 4 to 8 hour range. We got them back up and running in 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
This is a hospital environment.
That's a hospital environment. Yeah.
Yeah, it can also be for their facilities. If their facilities go down, we can move that traffic in terms of like a break the glass.
Break the glass. Absolutely.
And even like you see Genesis up there. We've got a customer today, another hospital. We deliver SIP trunking to about 2,000 concurrent calls. They're using Genesis. They didn't buy it from us, right? But Genesis doesn't supply 911 services, E911. So we're actually doing the E911 trunking along with a regular voice to that Genesis tenant.
Yeah. It's truly become, and our future of the product is to be this modular thing. So regardless of what the platform is, you can plug that into our SIP core, and we have all the, call it, creativity around how that traffic gets moved around.
Yep. We had a big win in the channel just in Q4 with an 8,000 person bank, 8,000 employee bank, where 6,000 of those folks are moving to Webex calling, but there's also 2,000 folks on Teams. And the first thing we did is set up that SIP trunk to the customer, right? Connect to their contact or their call manager, port all those numbers over to us, and now we can port individual desk phones if you need to, or individual branches at a time.
That's right.
And so we're probably going to be about a 6-month porting event here, but in the end, we've got a common dial plan using this universal toolkit to bring all that voice together.
And one of our colleagues calls it like the VoIP, the SIP traffic cop in the cloud. Yeah. Basically, we decide, we can be very surgical about how we port, when we port, to make that customer transition successful.
Yep, no, that's fantastic. Well, this has been very successful for us. I'd say voice is not, it's not boring. And in fact, what's out there is more and more of your larger enterprises, the kind of 5,000 to 20,000 employee enterprises, are finally deciding to move away from their customer premise PBXs.
Absolutely.
One of the things, too, to note here for the group is that we also have deep Avaya experience, too.
We do.
So not only we have experience on Microsoft Teams and Webex, but we've got some 40 or 50 technicians that can get in and help people with Avaya platforms, continuing maintenance as they try to figure out where to go in that journey.
Where to go next.
Yep. All right, well, let's move on now to contact center. Traditionally, maybe not the word traditionally, but when you went back, first of all, we've always been a big Cisco shop. Yep. We've been delivering hosted Cisco solutions of some kind for 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. It's like we do 60,000 phones, I think it is, for the state of Ohio.
That's
hosted
right.
Cisco phones, 1,400 or something contact center. Now, those were kind of traditional, call managers in the cloud that we built, et cetera. Cisco comes in, they buy BroadSoft, which has been a great addition. That's kind of the foundation of Webex calling, if you would, and the kind of hundreds of millions of R&D they put in that over the last couple of years.
Yep.
They also then came out with Webex Contact Center, and that was kind of rocky. The first version, it got to the point where you went back, call it 3 years ago, that we wouldn't even recommend it.
Right.
But Cisco has a lot of money, a lot of deep pockets, and a lot of intention to fix that. And they really have had kind of breakneck innovation over the last couple of years. And this WebEx 2.0 now is we want to kind of show you some things here, but really a complete platform on the CCaaS side. And they also purchased a CPaaS company 4 or 5 years ago. I forget the name. Do you remember the name at all?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Yeah.
And so there's really the story of a complete contact center through CPaaS and being able to deliver that now that competes with the likes of Five9, NICE inContact, TalkDesk. Now, you're one of our point people kind of on the Cisco collaboration and product management development side. I know you spent a lot of time out there. Kind of talk a little bit about some of the things you've learned recently as you've gone to these events.
Yeah, it's been so interesting. Like you and I, a lot of our career has been around voice technologies, whether it's contact center or otherwise. And I was sitting out at Cisco Partner Summit back in October, and we're meeting with the Collab BU. We're sitting down talking to their leadership, and it's very interesting because in my career, a lot of times we've had contact center as a bolt-on to normal collab.
That's usually how it was, yeah.
Right, that's how it's been. They said 80% of their, I think it was 80%, close to it, 80% of their business now starts with the contact center and pulls collab through with it. Mm-hmm. And what they're realizing is, one, they're going out to the business that has the budgets, so that they're talking to the business users who have the budgets for call it a CX transformation, and then pulling through and having justification to then pull through the calling endpoints. And that, I think, was really like a light bulb moment for us, where we can go to our customers, talk to the business, and talk about contact center and truly impacting how they handle engagements with their customers.
Yeah.
And it makes that pull through of collab much easier. So it's a huge change, I think, in how we've typically gone to market.
Yeah. And, maybe a lot of our partners out there haven't thought of Cisco, and that's what we want to introduce, is that this is a, world-class contact center that they can feel comfortable bringing to their partners or to their customers. And, we're happy to do demos, show them all the great things, Matt, AI, innovation, and everything that's included in it.
Well, that's a great point. Like, what they're doing around AI, you mentioned deep pockets. A lot of the innovation that we see in this space around AI requires deep pockets.
It sure does.
Especially in this place. So I think you're going to maybe cover it on the next slide, but they are doing a ton of, not only call it intrinsically to the product to make sure voice quality is great and all of these things, and having an AI engine that supports that, but also through chatbots and other, call it LLM type of solutions to engage with their customers, all going to be inherent into that platform.
And we're going to mention they've even got APIs and abilities to connect to other LLMs. You don't have to use their LLMs to do these kinds of things.
Exactly,
so it's an extensive platform. But Rob, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about more what you're saying as far as education goes, because you're right. In the channel, really, people have not thought of Webex Contact Center as something they'd want to recommend.
Right.
One of the big things we've been doing for the last 6 months, particularly in the last 90 days, is starting to run training sessions. So we just ran a big training session with Cisco with one of the big TSDs, and took those TSDs to the SEs that were really responsible for collaboration and contact center and ran them through the whole platform. And it really opened their eyes about the capabilities. So
yeah, and
we'd be happy to do that with our partners, and those kinds of things, those training sessions, we'd be happy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because there's so much Cisco embedded in the field,
Well, that's the thing.
Our partners have to be ready to have the full suite conversation, so they can have the competitors to Cisco, but also introduce Cisco as well, and
Well, it's a fact
really
of life.
be the trusted advisor.
It's a fact of life. There is still a massive installed Cisco base, and there are people who want to look at Cisco technology, even some that have them tattooed on their bicep, right?
Right,
yeah.
And now we, with pride, can deliver a Webex contact center solution along with whether it's Teams or anything else.
We're always looking for how do we shorten a deal cycle with the most relevant product to make the biggest impact to our customer, right? CBTS, we do more than just Cisco Webex Contact Center, right? We do Five9 and CX Inc. We have a lot of platforms we support. Right. But to your point about the install base for Cisco, that makes it how to have the most impact, the quickest, and drive the highest value to the customer. That is a way to have that conversation with the brand they recognize and a platform we trust.
Yeah. Again, we're specialists in delivering as a managed service with the kind of channel-friendly commissions, because oftentimes still partners, when they think of Cisco, it's being sold by a VAR, it's a CapEx purchase, and it's kind of not channel-friendly. When we deliver this, we deliver as a channel-friendly solution.
That's absolutely
well,
right.
And one last point is partners now know this, that Cisco is working through not working direct in the channel.
That's right. Good point.
Any longer. So they can they're really kind of putting their horses behind CBTS. And
why don't you talk a little bit about that, just the executive alignment you have as our channel chief with the Cisco team?
Yeah. So I guess about a year, last channel partners, Cisco, I had meetings at channel partners, and Cisco's leadership had really announced that they were no longer going to be direct through the channel and through the TSDs. And they were picking really just 2 service providers in the field that they were going to get behind, and CBTS was one of those. Mm-hmm. And that's because of our ability to not only deliver, but us to, just in your department, moving through all of the different Cisco products and services, not only just in calling and collab and contact center, but through Meraki and other products as well.
Yep.
And they're actually still opening their eyes up to how much contact center is being sold in the channel. We've done a little bit of research, and there's probably several tens of thousands of contact center seats sold every month in the channel. And so now the channel's got an opportunity to be able to deliver that Webex solution where those customers want to take a look at Cisco's solution. So a couple other thoughts on that. One, first of all, it is this kind of global Webex backbone, right? again, the deep pockets. They've got the money to be able to spend these build these voice pops and build this globally. So we can deliver Webex Contact Center in a global fashion. And it is now a comprehensive solution, right? Whether you're talking about, the AI enhancements that you mentioned, whether those are agents, whether there's things, sentiment analysis and, agent analysis, et cetera. Those AI tools are all there. It's, of course, an omni-channel environment, right? All the workforce optimization is there, et cetera. Cisco also has a variety of ways to deliver that phone call to me. Voice is still important, obviously, and so whether I want to deliver that voice to a Teams client or to a Webex calling client, whether I want to just deliver it to my DID on my cell phone, or I want to use a WebRTC client, that's all included now in the Webex solution. Integration as well. I saw a demo the other day that Cisco put on again for this TSD, and really talked about the APIs that are open and available to be able to bring third-party solutions. And that's going to be becoming more and more important as people decide what AI environments, LLMs they want to use to be able to, to kind of build these bots and build these solutions.
Yeah. So. I mean, to your point earlier, Matt, like we were all kind of around for that contact center 1.0 with Cisco.
Yep.
And it missed the mark on a number of areas, but they went back to the lab.
That's right.
Spent some money, a lot of development hours.
To the bank.
And now what you see in front of you is the outcome of that. And it is truly an excellent enterprise-grade solution.
Yep.
Well, I think across the board, we're all kind of now starting to see the 2.0 versions of these channel managed services. Like on the SD-WAN side, we're going to talk about Palo a little while here on the SD-WAN. We all did a great job delivering SD-WAN 1.0. Winners came out of that. Investment came in, and now we got this next generation of technologies. And I think on the voice side's the same thing, right?
I agree.
The Ring Centrals, the 8x8s, all sorts, still in the business. Everybody kind of had that voice 1.0 or that contact center 1.0, and now you're seeing the big folks come in, spend the money like Cisco, and build that next generation of solutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Are we on to the third topic?
Yes.
I
the
love
P word.
This.
Palo Alto.
The P word. This is a massive, massive shift, I think, in the space. When you look at any of the Gartner Magic Quadrants of this kind of SD-WAN, SSE, SASE, all-in-one SASE, single vendor SASE, Palo is absolutely having conversations with and being implemented or investigated or top of mind in every large customer. I would say by the end of the year, any CIO and a partner's customer will have looked at Palo, and
if they haven't looked at it,
may have already.
They're going to ask. We had Palo in here a couple days ago, and we learned that Palo has a 30% market share on firewalls in the space of customers, really from Fortune 50 all the way down to 500 employees, and that's literally like twice as much as the next competitor. And so. Well, again, the great thing about Palo is this installed base, this brand. Palo then spent hundreds of millions of dollars over the last 6 years, realized what they need to do, and have now built this world-class cloud-based SASE solution.
And really, the ask is and recommendation is, as partners hear that or are investigating SASE in their customer base, they really need to think Palo and think CBTS.
Absolutely. I mean, you even asked, Matt, it was interesting, when we had them in the other day, you said something asked a question along the lines of, hey, tell me about your segmentation mix.
With the Palo folks, yep.
The Palo folks, because they're like, their claim to fame is we're in 99 of the top 100 Fortune companies in the world. But what does that mean? Lower enterprise, mid-market. I think the answer they gave was something like, hey, we have 68,000 customers.
That's what it was.
And there's a huge segment there in the mid-market that is ripe for what we do.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And we've made big investments. We've always been a Palo VAR, if you would, going back, 15 years or something. But we decided the strategic alignment, we felt where we kind of observed where Palo was going, and we'd made great investments in our technical people and certifications. Yeah. Talk a little bit about kind of how you've worked with Palo and some of that, and I think our award even that we got for that.
Yeah. So we did win the Service Provider of the Year award for Palo Alto due to the managed SASE offering that we put together. But the reality is, in any of these large OEMs, you do have to put in a lot of sweat equity.
Because there's complexity, you got to simplify.
There's complexity, you got to simplify. There's a lot of certifications to meet certain provider statuses. So we won Service Provider of the Year. But one thing that we're really paying attention to, and Palo has this great slide to show all of their offerings, and we are strategically attaching our services to each one of those offerings, one by one. Started with SASE, Cortex. We're going to go kind of down the line to build our services, but it does start with deep Palo expertise.
And we've invested in that.
And we've invested in that big money to make sure our people are qualified.
We also drink our own champagne.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah,
and
forgot about that.
When we looked at what tools we're going to use to protect our business here at CBTS, obviously you can't pick one platform for everything, but boy, a big majority of that.
Our entire security portfolio went over to Palo.
Was in the Palo.
Yep. And it's great. And it's one of those things, even as we work with our partners, or we want to bring customers even into our EBC, we can show them, here's our SOC. Here's what our SOC uses. Here's how we, CBTS, from a corporate perspective, are using Palo Alto. We can literally demo our own environment to our partners, to our customers to show like, hey, you said drinking our own champagne, a much better way to say eating your own dog food.
Right.
But it's just truly a remarkable platform. You want to talk a little bit about
let's talk about that platform.
Yeah.
So this idea now that people are starting, one, companies have the massive security tool sprawl.
Yep.
And one of the big jobs that they all have is how do I kind of bring that down into the least amount of vendors, right? And again, so Palo's done this fabulous job. The channel's familiar with, on the SD-WAN side, CloudGenix. That's where some of this technology came from originally.
That's right, yeah.
And even some of the technology we're going to talk about, the ADEM or AIOps ADEM, which is kind of understanding application flows, came from CloudGenix. But they took and brought that in now, and so they've got this complete kind of SD-WAN fabric, right? Then Prisma, the idea of basically taking their firewall capabilities they've always had and moving that into the cloud, right? And so the ability then to connect multiple locations together, then connect the work from home users, right? Because I've got a client on my desktop now that allows me to get the same ubiquitous security experience, whether I'm working in the office, whether I'm working from home, I'm working from Starbucks. And that's a vital thing now in businesses out there. We've got to have that same kind of control.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty important as we're talking to customers is, what are your challenges? Of course, this challenge of more and more people working from home, but the challenges of some people coming back into the office place. And I need this ubiquitous security fabric that kind of protects me, any device I'm using, any application, any user, and even be able to sense when I'm switching devices, switching locations, and apply those kind of security rules.
But still have that ubiquitous access with those security rules. I think, from my personal experience, because we deployed it, right, is I have the ubiquitous access to all of the apps that I need, but all the way down to the device, the application layer, I have security. Like it truly feels like I have this like virtual bodyguard, almost like just protecting me. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the first time, and we've been around this for a long time, it's probably the first time I've appreciated a tech stack so much that I truly feel safe without jeopardizing my access.
And not only jeopardizing access, but jeopardizing productivity.
Yep.
How many times in the past have we had some kind of antivirus or security on our laptop and it killed the performance of my laptop?
Right. Yeah, totally.
It was
agree.
annoying, and that's not the case. These technologies now are real time, and it actually doesn't affect my experience at all.
Yeah, but so let's talk about ADEM for a second. Because there's
ADEM, let's tell them what it is.
Yeah.
ADEM is Autonomous Digital Experience Management. Cisco's got kind of a competitor called Thousand Eyes, which kind of can keep track of application performance in the middle. ADEM is this tool that not only can kind of keep track of application performance in the middle, but even understand my laptop, understand my edge and the SD-WAN side. So I just want to let them know what it is. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, and the point is what used to jeopardize the performance of your laptop, and you could kind of go and look at your CPU utilization and all that. What ADEM is doing on top of the Palo suite is literally showing you where you have issues end to end from your desk to that application where there is an issue in the network, whether it's your network or externally, which is just a great, I think, add-on to what Palo Alto is doing in the security space.
And we don't really have time to go through it right here, but this AIOps portion of the artificial intelligence literally has the ability to build kind of quality of service expectations for different kinds of users, for different kinds of applications, alert on those things. when it sees trends, make recommendations back.
Yep.
And of course, all these technologies are moving to then automation and being able to self-correct in areas as well.
That's right.
So yeah, this ability basically to be able to, no matter where I'm working from, get the kinds of application access I need, and then even the ZTNA portion. ZTNA has been around a long time, but in this fabric, if you take a look at it, I basically have got protection points in Prisma and protection points back in my data center when we're talking about ZTNA access to applications. And so there's enforcement points now all through this network. And so I can take users now and really start to, for the first time, kind of be able to easily implement ZTNA practices across a whole platform. It hasn't always been so easy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to, just because on the time check here, we have about 5 minutes left. So if you do have a question, please post it in the comments. Lance will read it to us, and we can go from there.
The other thing I do want to mention too, Prisma just announced a couple of months ago. They bought a company called Talon, but it's really kind of a product they call their Prisma Access browser that's come into the portfolio, and we're starting to see that uptake in enterprise environments.
Yep.
People have challenges in the enterprise environments with temporary workers, contract workers, vendors needing access to their applications, but needing to lock down that access.
That's right.
And Prisma Access Browser allows me to do this without a lot. It's very simple. It connects basically my AD environment. Typically, I can build these groups, build these users on a temp basis, and give folks access to only a certain amount of applications, yet they're not part of my entire, SD-WAN or SASE environment. So that's some interesting technology we'd love to show out there too.
It is, and it's funny because Palo was in here, and that is one of the fastest growing products in this entire suite.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll kind of do one last slide. I want to talk about this AIOps ADEM again, because what you see on the screen here, if you kind of see on the left there that I've got a user, and that user on their laptop has got the Palo client, right? And the Palo client has this ADEM capability, this autonomous digital experience management capability. And so I'm a user, and I'm trying to get to applications on the right, or I'm in a branch, and I'm trying to get to applications on the right. And that branch has got an SD-WAN box, a Palo box, and it has an ADEM shim in it, if you would, kind of that logic. And the ability to literally take control, not take control, but to see the path of that application, to see the TCP response back, let's say applications on the right back in, be able to do artificial pings and see, okay, maybe my problem's at the router. Maybe my problem's at my first ISP. Maybe the problem is in some middle mile as Comcast hands it to AT&T, who hands it to Verizon that finally goes to my application, let's say. And so this ability to have this vision over all the applications on my desktop, to be able to see, to your talk about the laptop as well. I got too many browser windows open, too much CPU utilization, not enough memory. And so the ability for this monitor, if you would, keeping track of applications has assisted us and our customers in kind of a mean time to innocence. Where do I figure out what the problem is, right?
Absolutely.
So it's also a pretty revolutionary technology out there, and we bundle that in when we do our management.
Bundle that in, and it's phenomenal technology. Yep. Lance, do we have any questions coming through yet?
Yeah, we have one question related to SIP earlier. When a partner brings CBTS, Webex calling, and call center solution into an opportunity, will you require implementation or managed services for ongoing PBX management?
The answer is not necessarily. I mean, we are, when you look at CBTS, we're $1.4 billion something entity. About 50% of that's a VAR, about 50% of it's managed services.
Yep.
Now, we as a company and the channel wants to continue to move, selling more and more managed services. We make more money, we share more money with the channel, et cetera. But if people want to come in and be able to buy parts of that kind of from a VAR perspective or professional services, we've got a number of implementation and assessment services we could bring to a customer. So we're open to unique opportunities. Now, they need to be sizable enough. Yeah. We're not going to do something crazy with a 400-person firm because it's not in our best interest, really. But somebody comes and has got several thousand employee company, and there's some components of maybe the Cisco stack they already own. How can we help deploy those? How can we help with some kind of day two, whatever? We're open to those things.
Well, and I think when we bring customers on, having that expertise allows us sometimes to move from an on-prem to the cloud because we know both sides of the equation.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, in that circumstance, I mean, let's just play this out. If we were to sell Webex calling to a customer with one of our partners, leveraging our SIP core, and they have an on-prem PBX and not really ready to get rid of yet, that's fine. Keep your PBX. We can still route the calls, deliver SIP down to that PBX.
And we don't even have to do the day 2 management if we, we can do those things. Yep.
What additional benefits does your SIP core offer to a prospect currently using Twilio and considering Five9 or Genesys, aside from a smoother porting experience and the ease of transferring DIDs from Five9s to Microsoft Teams?
My take would be on that, I think, is, tell me if you agree with this, people in the channel are familiar with Megaport, the ability for one clearinghouse, kind of, if you would, to connect to all sorts of data feeds, right? And it's similar for us, right? If we've got that SIP core, we're connected to Twilio, we're connected to whatever third parties there, we can provide, intermediary CPaaS services if they needed it. Now Twilio is a CPaaS platform, but that's one of the benefits. You mentioned a hospital that we were doing some work with. We were deploying both Microsoft Teams, Webex calling, and a big trunk up to Twilio so that we've got one common platform to steer those calls around. And let's say, again, that example of Teams going down, maybe that Team's going down and then we want to direct that call up into Twilio. So the ability for customers to have complete control of that routing in a core, even if we're delivering to third parties.
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
That's all the questions, guys.
Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for being part of this quarterly update. Thank you to all of our partners. We couldn't be here without you.
Nope.
And we look forward to seeing all of you that are going to channel partners, because Justin and Matt will both be there.
Las Vegas, here we come.
That's right.
All right.
So, Justin, are you going to be singing?
I will not be singing. Do not want me, but
Rob will be singing.
I may get on the mic.
Yeah. You always do.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.